VLR.
This show is produced by IJReview.com.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.
Let's be clear. Now let's be clear. Now let's be clear. There are no winners here. Now let's be clear. Now let's be clear. Now let's be clear. There are no winners here.
Two minds are better than one. Time for the right mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausum.
Well, welcome to the show, folks. This is The Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausum. Good Monday afternoon. Well, unless you're in California, of course. Good morning to you. Miller, how are you, man?
Dude, I'm great. It's in the mid-20s. It snowed unexpectedly, but the sun is shining, and that's about all. Dude, that's about all we can hope for this time of year.
Yeah, I will not tell you what I ended up doing yesterday afternoon then. Well, no, I will. I took a nap and got a little. I took a nap poolside and got a little bit of a sunburn. It was like 85 degrees here yesterday.
Yeah.
Although it was a little bit rainy this morning and kind of cloud covery, so it's not ideal all the time.
Some of us have to bear that burden.
Topic.
Yeah. Well, no.
Hey, so let's get right to the important thing from the weekend, man. You saw American Sniper.
I did see American Sniper Saturday evening.
Okay, so I myself saw it the second time on Saturday with my junior high kid. So tell me, man, what'd you think?
I thought a lot of stuff. Obviously it was an excellent film. It was very well done. Bradley Cooper, amazing in it. I mean, obviously I've seen the clips and so forth, but although let me digress just a second. This is not an Academy Award winning performance, nor was it intended to be designed as one. What he did do is capture Kyle very effectively. So I would doubt that he's going to win the award, but that's here or there. But well, I put up this post. We'll talk about that next, I think, because Eastwood has finally responded to the critics, and I put that up on IJR this morning. And at last look, it was kicking out of the gate pretty well. But as I say at the end of that post, relative to all the criticism, right, from the left, I mean, it's an the anti-war crowd, the anti-gun crowd, the anti-America crowd, the anti-Republican conservative crowd, lambasting the film. We've talked about Michael Moore and Seth Rogen and others of their ilk, if you will. But I mean, the bottom line as it relates to that, in my opinion, the movie was neither pro-war, anti-war, and it was apolitical. There was nothing to do with politics in this movie.
No, you have absolutely no idea what political party he's involved with. There's no political agenda. There's no statements that are like, oh, there's a Republican talking point or a Democrat talking point or a liberal talking point or a conservative talking point.
No, and of course, as I said in the post this morning, that's exactly what's wrong with it as it relates to politics and war, is that the elite left, the liberals, the movie is awful and terrible and ridiculous. You probably read what Rolling Stone said. It's so silly or ridiculous, it's not worth reviewing. But in other words, let me translate. It's all of the above to these people because it was not explicitly an anti-war movie, because it did not pass judgment on whether we should have gone into Iraq in the first place. So that's what has these people upset. So therefore, the drivel about, it's pro-war and it's pro-Republican. No, it's just not anti-war and anti-Republican clowns.
No. Although, you know what? Now that I think about it, his comment about um, making the tough decisions. Like there was that one, he had to make some tough decisions, and the idea was in order to protect the guys that were there, and the increased, that there were people doing bad stuff that had to be stopped. That could be interpreted as political, perhaps.
Really? I mean,
Well, I don't know.
I think I
It
interpret
would
it
be
as
a.
go ahead.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Not that it would be political, but it would be one particular political side would espouse that as an important tenet, maybe.
Well, I would remove I would rework that. I mean, as I would think it should have been done, and remove the word political and say one side, when you're at war with another side, should do everything he or she can to protect his own side, and that's what the movie was about. And there's this nonsense about cold-blooded killer that we talked about last week. This nonsense. Moore came out swinging again over the weekend, tweeting.
Right.
These people talking about him shooting people in the back and whatever have you. Listen, maybe I'm a naive conservative. We don't know anything and we're stupid. And what else did Todd call us today? Idiots. We we presuppose that the shots that they had in the movie that he took and the decisions he had to make. I suppose most of what happened was that. But
Right.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
there was, you know what? I saw it again this weekend myself, as I said. And it was the first time I saw it a week ago today was at a guy's house with the sound turned down on a little 42-inch screen. I saw it on Saturday in a theater with a massive screen, and I was looking for particular things. One thing, do you recall there's the one scene where the guy comes around the corner and he's holding the bazooka. It's the one where the little kid comes over and picks it up later.
he shoots and kills the kid, and the kid picks it up. Right.
No. That was the yeah. He shoots and kills the guy, and the kid comes over and picks it up,
Right.
and then there's a tension there for a little bit.
Right.
That scene. Did you notice the guy that was holding the bazooka? He actually did get shot in the back. Because the nature at which he was angled around the corner, pointing the bazooka at the oncoming Marines.
Well, sure, and I think it was
so.
I think it was more.
My,
I think it was more kind of on the side, if you will.
Well, my point of that is that just the facts of saying they shoot people in the back doesn't tell the whole story.
Exactly. Before you brought up that scene, I was thinking of the scenario. Let's say a guy comes. This was not in the movie, but let's say a guy comes running out of a door and running straight towards a convoy or a column of Marines or whomever walking down the street, and you think there's a reason he's doing this because this is probably not suicide by cop analogy. So, yeah, war is hell. But to your exact point, I mean, technically, they would be correct, and that dude would have been shot in the back.
Right. It was interesting. I was on a radio show last night and was talking about this. I put up on my Facebook site, the House Rules with Michael Hausum. I put up a short little podcast from Sam Harris that was probably 10 or 11 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And the particular topic at hand was Israel and Palestine. Now, think what you will about Sam Harris and atheism and all that kind of thing. This little conversation that he put up had absolutely nothing to do with that. It had to do with the issue of moral equivalence. And so I put that up over the weekend, and I thought about this particularly in regards to the American Sniper deal. And one of the tenets that Harris is talking about is when evaluating actions, especially when there's some kind of conflict. His context is Palestine and Israel, but also what we were doing there in Iraq would be the same one, is to consider what either side would do if they absolutely could.
Well,
And
exactly.
well, what we could do, the criticism that innocents were killed and all this kind of thing. If we could, we would have. Well, not that we absolutely could have, but we chose to not level the whole city with one press of one button.
Right.
Right. And the
Right.
particular reason we did not do that was out of concern for innocence. On the other hand, you saw a couple of scenes in there what the opposing side was doing to innocents, intentionally so.
Including the use a very graphic scene, although not shown up close, the dude with the drill.
Right. And that question, what would one side do if they could? If it were reversed, the other side would have leveled what I mean. Not only would they have leveled whatever places they could have where the Americans were, they would have certainly used and did so use innocence as a way to get the Americans to come out in the open so that they then could be shot.
That's what they do. Listen, this relativism and so forth, and if what one side would do if it can. I mean, it's reminiscent of Bibi Netanyahu's famous the quote: "If the Arabs were to put down their guns, there would be no war. If Israel were to put down its guns, there would be no more Israel."
Well, right, and that's what Harris's point is. Harris's point
Right.
is that there are certainly occasions where innocent Palestinians are killed, but that is despite incredible pains that Israel takes to not hurt any at all. And to lambaste them for, oh my gosh, you're killing innocents. Well, they could take down the entire state of Palestine with a push of a button as well.
Incidentally,
Or
yeah,
not
and
the
I
state,
want
the
to not
region,
forget.
whatever.
I want to comment on the point you just made, but just to digress a bit, because I have had this conversation with detractors in the past. I would like for someone to tell me when the country, if you will, state, whatever, of Palestine existed, what was its capital, what was its all of the above. I'm still waiting for an answer on that. But yeah, back to your point. I mean, Israel, even at one point during the last major conflict, called the homes of people. Did you see that? They called the homes of people that they, were going to bomb because of probably storage of weapons and safe house and so forth. They also dropped minor explosives, if you will, on the roof, and communicated that this means in 20 minutes or whatever, this house is not going to be here anymore. Tell me one time that's ever happened in the history of warfare.
Well, certainly not. And on one hand, you've got the Palestinians hiding behind innocents, using literally them and their schools as shields. And I mean, if Israel were to do that, if the IDF was standing behind a bunch of Israeli kids firing bullets, or sending little Jewish kids into halal markets with bombs strapped to themselves, it would be a different discussion.
Oh, and within nanoseconds, the UN would be accusing Israel yet again of war crimes.
Right, and that back to the American sniper thing. The entire reason why Chris Kyle's job existed in the first place, he's sitting off 100, 200, 500, 1,000 yards away from operations, looking for people who are poking their heads out of windows or burying bombs or whatever. The entire reason his job existed was because the American military decided not to take out swaths of blocks of the city one button at a time. I mean, his job.
Go ahead, Michael.
Sorry, go. No, I was just going to say, if Americans were not concerned about making sure to reduce innocent casualty as much as possible, the job of a guy like Chris Kyle would have never been needed, because you would have never had Marines going door to door to door to try to find people one at a time. They would have just, a handful of tanks or a bulldozing or a couple of bombs, and the city block or the city itself is a plate of glass.
It's gone. And listen, irrespective of innocents and children or whatever, and even irrespective of the Iraqi war, snipers have been an integral part of warfare since probably the beginning of warfare. If a war was fought, out on a course